I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session under Rhode Island General Law 4246582, legal advice litigation, contract for Director of Finance and Administration.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. We'll be back at... Can I have a motion to return to open session?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Executive session was held regarding legal advice litigation contract for Director of Finance and Administration. Discussion was had, no votes were taken. Has anyone signed up for open forum? No. Consent agenda, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have all those in favor? Mr. Rurick?
Yes, newspaper appointments, newspaper advisor, Tiverton High School, Allison Hackett. Boys basketball coach, Tiverton Middle School, Carlin Phillips.
Correspondence?
Correspondence, you received a letter regarding our participation, our students and teachers' participation in the mural project for the library. It highlights all the good work that our students have been doing with Mika Seeger.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to move up item 10C.
Motion to move up item 10C, update on renovations to the high school and middle school. Second.
All those in favor? Mr. Rurick?
Yes. Excuse me. This item was requested by a couple of school committee members regarding issues surrounding noise associated with the implementation or the installing of the new roof here at the high school. And the other day we had an issue with an odor from the sealant that was put on the roof in preparation for the snowstorm that really didn't come over the weekend. I've asked Mr. Glenn Alborg, to come tonight to address those issues with the committee.
Okay, and as I understand it right now, currently work is suspended until we've been able to hear from them?
That's correct.
Okay, so just Mr. Albert, if you could come in. I think the biggest concern we have is, well, twofold. One is disruption to the school day, and then second with the event on
Friday.
Thursday? Friday? Friday. Need to hear what safety precautions are, first of all, I guess, why did this happen? What is the sort of root cause of all of this, and what safety processes are going to be put in place to make sure this does not happen again, or worse, something more serious?
Also, just let me Diane and I both went back and reviewed was it August? The meeting, and there were assurances that disruption to the school day was going to be minimal, if any. And what the feedback that we're getting is that is not true. So we're really, as well as the safety, just the day-to-day disruption is of great concern for everyone in the building.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity.
You might want to move the...
Yes, okay. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you tonight. My name is Glenn Alborg, and along with me is our project superintendent, Jude Fairbanks, project coordinator, Drew Sarakowski, and our roofing subcontractor here at the high school, Joe McKenna. We also have some handouts that I'm going to pass around just to use as kind of a guideline for our discussion and presentation.
Welcome, everyone.
Thank you very much. Oh.
There you go. The little red light means it's on.
There.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're good.
Oh, very good. Is it working better now?
That's better.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, my name again is Glenn Alborg. I'm the Vice President of Alborg Construction Corporation and the principal in charge on this project. The first piece of information we have here is our safety measures that were implemented during the on-site of the project, as well as day-to-day safety measures that we've implemented. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Jude Fairbanks and ask him to address these measures line by line. The second item that we have is a roofing update for each school, which we'd like to address as well, and I'll turn that over to Drew Sardakowski. Jude, go right ahead.
Good evening. I'm Jude Fairbanks with Alborg Construction. The Tiverton School safety measures, I would like to start there on general job site safety. All materials are stored in locked, fenced-in areas. All dumpsters are fenced in and locked when not in use. Stair towers have been installed as a safe means of roof access. These stair towers are fenced and locked to keep non-construction personnel out of the construction areas. All on-site workers have had their BCIs cleared, taken part of the ACC safety orientation program, and have been issued safety badges. As part of the ACC safety program, evacuation routes, emergency info have been posted and reviewed by all on-site employees. ACC cleans the school grounds daily of construction-related debris. Safety signage is visible on all temporary fencing throughout the job site. All deliveries are scheduled around the school day's activity, not to interfere with buses or any school activity. Daily work hours have been adjusted as not to interfere with school procedures. All welding will require a fire watch, and ACC will submit a life safety impairment plan to the local fire marshal. For what we do on roof safety, safety warning flag rope set at 12 feet from roof edge. Safety rail system, a fixed system on the high school third floor roof was installed. All safety rail have all personnel tie off on both loading and unloading of roof areas. So where we load material and unload material, all workers must be tied off. The open courtyard at the middle school has been fenced 48 inches high with a safety anchor and wiring system at roof level. Any work at roof edge requires 100% tie off. All materials used on site are VOC, low VOC, LEED, NECHPS approved. MSDS data is on site, also on the drop box for every product used on site.
Could you tell us what those acronyms mean?
Low VOC is low volatile organic chemical,
Okay.
so that it does not gas off. It has a very low non-carcinogen versus, say, a gas off of like lacquer you would use in your house to put on
Right.
your furniture.
Right.
Very high VOC.
Okay.
All lead has to do with recycled goods. Everything we use to 10% has to be more than 10% recycled materials. You know, meet all standards for being recycled using post-recycled material in new building products. It's
Okay.
more the standard of construction.
Okay.
And the CHIPS is the ruling agency that controls all school construction. Right, to give you a collaborative, high-performance school
Okay.
with a, right, that is also mandated by RIDE. And MSDS is just a safety data sheet of all products used
Right.
on site.
Okay.
Safety signs are posted at all exit doors, warning of work proceeding overhead. Roofs are cleaned daily and all roofing materials are secured. The communication that I have with everyone here at the high school and the middle school goes through Mike Mendez and both principals. I have an open line of communication with both of them, schedule where we're going, where we'll be working next, what we're doing when we're working there. So in that line of communication has been great throughout the whole project. On the issue of the odor that came into the library last week, they forecasted 3 to 6 inches of snow, heavy rains. So I'm at the point where I am here at your library trying to seal in. You have a through wall flashing, that roofing gets rolled under, the through wall flashing goes over it. The through wall flashing is in your brick. If we had big snow buildup, heavy puddling, and I didn't secure the material has the chance to roll off from the weight of the snow. We're at the library, there's books, you know, it's 6 of one, half of the other. Do I secure it? Do I fasten it to be protected for weather, or do I leave it and take that chance? And I would never take that chance being where I was located. So I went ahead, sealed up the roof in case we got a snowstorm.
Yeah. Hi, Joe McKenna, I'm a roofing contractor. You can blame me for the interruption the other day. I think probably the noise has been more centered on the low roof. When we started on the high area and did your classroom wing, and as we came around the low area, I think a lot of the noise transferred into the classrooms, and of course we're on a lower roof. I think you heard more of that. We are 1 week away from being completely done with the low roofing here. Over to the auditorium and the gymnasium. We have to do the admin section of the building over here. As far as the membrane and the odor coming in the building, yeah, I agree. Could we have waited? You know, it probably didn't dawn on us that the children were, and the faculty was getting dismissed at 2 o'clock-ish. We certainly could have done that activity at 3 o'clock and not been in the position that we're in now.
Maybe you can back up a little bit and tell me what happened that the fumes were coming into the library to begin with.
We have some venting here that you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
That's where the low roof meets the high wall of this. We had those vents sealed as best we could. There was a liquid that needed to be applied so we could seal the membrane to the wall so no snow got behind it. And
Okay.
evidently some of that odor permeated into this room.
And that was because the vents were not sealed properly, or
I
because
think
you were
it's
doing
not-
work that you thought would not have an impact, or?
I think both, and I don't think it's just coming in from the vents as well. I think some of the masonry is porous that needs to be addressed as well. Having said that, had we waited until dismissal, you still would have had some odor permeating, but it wouldn't have affected as many people in this building, that's for sure. Having said that, the majority of the roof, the flat roof to a wall section has been done. It's certainly been all done except for the admin building. In a perfect world, we could start the auditorium for you next week up high. Our objective here is to utilize vacation week to finish all and everything that needs to be done on this low roof, including the administration section, and get over to the corridor that's leading to the gym. At that point, yeah, I can't tell the colors, that's my only problem. At that point...
This schedule doesn't have you working on vacation week.
Pardon me?
This schedule has a gap between December 22nd and January 2nd.
Which is vacation.
Phase 3B is 12/22 through 12/30, and
Oh, okay.
3B is
Okay.
the area that they're discussing right
Okay.
now.
Sorry, go ahead.
So we would come back for vacation week and finish the admin building.
That, again, that's section 3B on your drawing.
Right, so then when they come back from vacation, we'll move on to phase 5.
Phase 4.
Can I ask also though,
Oh, okay.
when we were here in August, you gave us your plans.
Yes.
It had you finishing up December 20th and not coming back till May.
I don't have that.
This was the plans that we received when we approved.
That is correct, and that was a preliminary plan that we submitted at that time.
Yeah, I think that
And
was
that
changed.
was completing the first phase of the roofing, and then taking into consideration weather constraints. We thought it would be best to come back in the spring, come back in May. But the way the roofing has progressed up to this time, it's moving along very well. We're trying to work around Saturdays and vacation days as well as professional days to keep the process moving, all weather permitting. If we can't get in due to weather, then the work will be deferred until next May. If you look at the schedule now, it does show some of the roofing. The last 2 phases of roofing for the high school are wrapping up during summer break, as well as the last phase for the middle school wrapping up during summer break.
So I guess I'm still trying to determine, and maybe you can help me out here. The event where there was fumes coming into the library, was that because of an oversight or because of a issue of timing when you performed certain work?
I would say that was an isolated condition first off. That product that they used, which is a low VOC adhesive, it's not hazardous, it's just an uncomfortable odor, was an isolated condition where they were using that product to adhere the roofing to the brickwork in preparation for the storm. There are very limited areas where that product has to be used.
Okay.
And on the areas that we're talking about moving forward, we do not intend to use any of that adhesive product. It's
Okay.
all going to be either a mechanically fastened or a different method without that product.
So if we weren't anticipating the storm, you wouldn't have used that product? Correct. Gotcha.
And again, it's not used, if I'm correct, if I understand it, you don't use that normally. That was because you needed it to button it up for
Right.
the upcoming storm.
Correct.
Thank you.
So then, if I hear you correctly, it wasn't an error in the use of the material or the adherent or adherent,
Timing.
or a deviation from protocol that resulted in something, going amiss. It was the use of this sealant was only at a specific time for a specific environmental reason, at least in part, and was employed at a time when there were still students in the school, and so therefore there was the issue of
Smell.
the fumes kind of impacting them, if you will.
Correct. Had it not been a Friday afternoon, and had we not been expecting poor weather, I think we would have deferred that activity as we have since we've started here.
Okay.
I think it was just bad timing on everything. I would, like Jude said, I would rather use it. We did try to cover the vents up. We didn't think it would come in the building. But, of course, we didn't want to have a flood in here either, so.
Right.
Yeah. No, I understand that, and I guess then the issue is, the foresight of understanding that when you are changing what you have a plan to do A, but you're actually doing B, having the foresight to say, well, that might have an impact on what's going on in the school, or an impact on exposure, and that's, I guess, what my concern is that, this one seems to have not been of consequence in terms of health or safety ultimately, but what reassurance can you give us that those types of thought processes are going on at some level to be sure that there isn't some impact that we'll be having a worse discussion?
To say the lesson learned from that, if there was any type of error, the only error was it didn't involve the use of that product, because that product was submitted to the architects, engineers, and approved. It's part of the roofing system. If there was any error, the error was the time we used the product. We should have waited until 2:30, until after the kids were dismissed, which we could have done. And that's the lesson learned, and that's the measure that we're implementing going forward. We will not be using that product, which is only an uncomfortable odor. It's not a hazardous odor, but it's just uncomfortable for occupants in the building. So that product will only be used in areas where there are no occupants in that area moving
Okay.
forward.
Okay.
Additionally, I've had a safety professional visit the job site 5 or 6 different times unannounced. anticipating what we're doing and where we're going, such as the skylights, making sure that we're taking them out on off hours. If there's a chance that we uncover a hole in the steel roof after we take the existing roof off, we're doing everything we can to look ahead to prevent, stubbing our toe again, that's for sure. We've spent a lot of money and a lot of time and effort has gone in to submitting this health and safety plan.
Okay.
And I think I see that you are doing everything you can to provide safety measures, and this was sort of a one-off with the thing. But I go back to the complaints I'm hearing are just the day-to-day disruption. But you're saying so everything's safe, that was a one-off. The day-to-day, the banging, just the disruption where we having to move classes around because it's too loud. You're saying that's because of working on the low roof? That's really the main...
Yeah, I believe so. I don't think,
Okay.
if somebody else can speak to it, I don't think...
I'm not in the building, so
I don't-
Chris, Bill...
I think the issue is that we did have issues with noise, and we've worked closely with Glenn and his people. They give us a 2-day schedule advance as to where they were working, where there were classrooms.
Okay.
And what I just heard Glenn and Mr. McKenna say is that over vacation, 3B is going to be worked on, which is right out here. Then
Yep.
if you look at the schedule, everything else, we're moving away from the classrooms. So, yes, if you're in the auditorium, I've been in the building when there was work going on over that 3B section just last week. Yeah, there was noise periodically, but it didn't keep me from having my meeting. Now, granted, having a meeting is different than teaching. I understand that. But the teachers here have been very understanding, very flexible with, being willing to move because I believe they understand what the end result's going to be.
Orient me here. So Phase 9, is that the...
Phase 9's my office.
Okay, I'm just trying to orient myself.
So
this
Phase 4
where
is
you
the
come in.
Phase 4 is the auditorium.
Yep,
Phase 5 is the gym.
okay.
6 is the music area, the corridor going into the gym, and the locker rooms. That's all that pink area in 6. 7 is the commons area going out to the weight room, where that little weight room area is. 11, or I'm sorry, that's 7.
Where are the classrooms on here?
All your classrooms are 1, 2, 3,
So
and 3B.
those are only in Phase 1, 2, and 3, so they have to get all the way through 11.
No, the classrooms are done. 1 is green, 2 is green, 3 is green.
Oh, that's where, okay. I
Those
see
are
what
your
you're
classrooms.
saying. So it says Phase 1, but they've been completed.
Right, it
Gotcha.
says complete.
Gotcha.
So phase, Section 8, I'm trying to find, Section 8, looks like that's Mr. Mendy's. I'm not sure where that,
That's like above the shops.
okay, above the shop
Oh,
area.
okay.
Okay, so that's 8. I'm trying to find my numbers here. 9 is my office, 10's the library,
Okay,
and 11 is the cafeteria.
all right.
As of now, we are, the hardest part, we're over all
And that's
the
the high
classrooms.
school.
We're by the classrooms. Right, we're gonna do that 3B over Christmas, which is your administration area, your entry foyer. And from there on, we're in the half of the school where you don't hold classes.
Okay, can we flip just quickly to the middle school?
Sure.
1, 2, 4, and 3 are where, Bill?
1 is the gym area,
Okay,
2's music, 3 and 4.
so 8 and 5 are the classrooms?
Your classrooms areas are 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Correct. We have, the middle school you haven't had is noise complaints because we haven't worked over classrooms yet. So-
Right.
So
So I'm
everything,
anticipating they're coming.
everything, everything,
Because I was just thinking to myself, why am I not hearing complaints
Right.
about the middle
We
school?
haven't-
But you know what?
we did the other half first.
The first phase is over Christmas break, and Phase 8, which is the other classroom section that I'm seeing here, is in June.
Yes.
Yes. We revamped the schedule. You had mentioned that schedule I gave you earlier.
Yeah,
You know, with, the- you know, like I said, I've been in contact with everyone. There's noticeable complaint, interruption of the teaching process, education process. I understand that, so we revamped this so that we can be over the educational classrooms during times when students aren't there.
Okay.
So if you look at the schedule for the middle school, all the phases are really being done in periods of time when there aren't people in the school.
That's a
If you
good
look at
point.
phase 6, that's during what we're calling February break, which
Yeah.
we're aware isn't a real break, but there's a Friday and a Monday and
A good
Tuesday
part of
off
it,
before
yep.
the following week.
What happens when there's delays, though? That, I mean,
This is
this,
all-
you're
it's all
right, this
weather
looks
dependent.
great, and it's all weather dependent.
Well, again,
so-
they've making, based on the revised schedule, they're making every effort to do the work when our kids aren't in session.
So
So-
if
Now that-
weather delays it,
If I'm-
can we say, you know what, it's delaying it to when they're in session, we're just gonna wait?
I think that starts to introduce a lot of
Sue,
cost
Jim,
overruns.
care to speak?
Well, is it a cost issue?
Yeah,
Okay.
it absolutely is.
They're gonna have to, come back to the site and remobilize and.
So if weather prevents us from doing a February break, and then we get, at the end of February or beginning of March, we get a window, we need to move, is what you're saying?
We'll do,
And we're, fingers crossed, it's gonna keep on going. You just gotta keep your eye on the prize, because if they can get this buttoned up, that's gonna be great.
and we
Ju-
have,
Just for everyone, I know on the camera they can't, Sue and Jim are both on our building committee
Yeah.
and have great experience on this, and are members of our community who have been instrumental in trying to help work with our outside folks. And so that's who I'm talking to.
All right.
and
So,
and I think what, if Glenn could clarify, to remind the viewers and the committee, why are we doing it this way and not waiting to do it over the summer?
Well, if-
I know the answer,
Right.
but if you could explain it to everybody, because it would have more meaning coming from you, I think.
Well, there's a lot of other work that needs to take place in addition to the roofing. There's structural steel reinforcements, there's HVAC equipment, preparations that we have to make that is going to be installed above the new roof. And the other reason is, if all of the work was taking place during next summer of 2018, trying to get adequate manpower during the busy time of year would be very difficult, and we'd run into scheduling constraints and so on. The schedule that you have, though, we're very sensitive. Top priority is the highest quality of education that you can provide, of course, to the students, and minimal disruption to your faculty. We understand, we get that. The schedule that's before you limits any work activities, or minimizes any work activities during those hours going forward. The only time we will be working above classrooms in the middle school is going to be during vacations or professional days and Saturdays, and then going into next summer. Now, if we have a winter event where we can't work during that week, then the schedule will just simply slide forward. That's not going to impact construction. Yes, it's going to impact us. It's going to impact our scheduling, but that's not going to impact your construction cost or your contract with us. We'll just slide it forward. So the way we've scheduled the job moving forward above classrooms is to perform those activities during non-school hours.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think I remember this from the summer, you've done this a lot with a lot of different schools.
Yes,
Like,
that's
so
correct.
you do understand schools going on.
You guys just
okay.
got done
Absolutely.
with Warwick,
I
right?
seem to
Junior
recall
high?
us having this
Yes.
discussion in the
Yes.
summer.
Yes, Coventry, Smithfield.
Yeah.
We just finished a major HVAC replacement, or we're in the process and close to finishing a major HVAC replacement for the city of Warwick at Warwick Vets Junior High.
And also, we have learned, as we've gone, the 2-day look-ahead window to go to the middle school. If, for example, the weather interferes, and inevitably it probably will, it's New
Exactly,
England, is that if we know 2 or 3 days ahead of time where they're going to be working, where Glenn and his people are going to be, Lori can adjust accordingly,
That's
like
nice.
like
That is nice.
Chris did. Chris went first, so we learned from Chris. You know, is there still noise? Yes, there is, but the contractors come in they come in at 0600 and try to do all the heavy, noisy stuff prior to school starting, or they wait until after school gets out at 2 o'clock, 2:30, depending on the school. And again, we have worked closely with Glenn and his folks, and we'll continue to do so. And I think this is a significant way to address the noise issue, especially at the middle school, because as you can see, the classrooms are what's going to be next. And that work, you know, they're doing their best to try to schedule it when school's not in session. And at the high school, we had meetings with Mr. Murray over the summer, I believe in August or September, and we went through everything, because initially we thought the gym was going to be done first, and we had when we talked with him about it. So, you know, everyone who will be impacted, and I'm sure Chris will have conversations with Mr. Snyzik in music, those are really the two areas that would be impacted.
So,
And again, they're fastening the roof, you know, up on the roof. I don't think it would interfere with PE class or music.
I'm less worried about the noise in those parts of the building, but since this project started, you know, we had to cancel school one day because of water.
That was caused by our windows not being closed properly.
Was that our own fault?
It was
That would have happened whether
One
we were
was.
fixing the roof or
There was
not.
one.
Right, that would have happened because of the 50-mile-an-hour winds we got
Not
at the
going to
end
throw you under
of
the bus for that one.
October. We had I believe one leak on the science where Mike's there, the wood. Can you explain that again?
There's an expansion joint on the third floor, right above that set of stairs. When they're moving material in, I think one of the gentlemen backed into it, broke that expansion joint. We had rain the following day. We came through that joint. Immediately I called them. They came up and fixed it immediately.
No. Good.
And the issue of, we had some water over in the social studies wing over here. That was a result not from the roof itself, but because of the vibrations caused by the installation of the new roof. It caused the drain, the pipe was so rotted, it came disconnected, and we had some leaks over there, and I believe that's been addressed.
Well, the bottom line is there have been a number of smaller mishaps or issues with water coming in, and I even see a bucket out in the hallway tonight. My question is, as you move over now to the gym, in particular, as we head into basketball season, how are we to know that there won't be leaking issues come January?
We have leaking issues now, I can tell you that. It leaks now.
Does it?
Huh?
That's why we're doing the roof.
Yes, no, I'm not being facetious.
That-
It leaks
neither
now,
am I. Yeah.
and we don't have a
Why
new
we
roof
needed
on
the
it.
roof.
And
Well, I can see the effort to stay away in the future from the time when students are in classrooms. I just wish we had that knowledge ahead of time. I really feel bad for the kids that have had to listen to this, to the staff that's had to listen to this, deal with the little things that have gone on. You know, when we talked back in August, you know, it was the question I asked: will there be disruption, and will it be loud? And we were told no. So this is why I've been concerned over the past week, especially because it's another issue, you know. And should we be concerned moving forward?
So, Mr. Ashley, can you give us a sort of snapshot of where we are right now with regard to disruption?
Sure. I will say that on a day-to-day basis, noise is probably the most significant. We have had to move some classrooms, and the noise tends to be most significant in the early morning when they're doing the most, I guess you could kind of say, physical work. I will add, as they've all mentioned about communication, that they have been open and clear with communication and responsive to my communication. At the same time, we have experienced disruptions. You know, again, the smell incident aside, the 2-day change has helped significantly in terms of improving communication and knowing, okay, we're going to work in this area, there's the possibility. We've also talked about the off school hours work / construction as much as possible to do that most noisy work, the cutting, grinding, etc., either very early in the morning or as best as we can later in the day. At the same time, we recognize that sometimes the work just has to get done to move forward. There has been a little bit of a learning curve, and from my end, I'm glad that essentially almost all of the instructional space has been repaired or replaced, and moving forward, the gym and the auditorium specifically, those are, to a degree, it's not as significant as classrooms, those are instructional spaces, and so I think ideally if we could work to either, as you're doing with the middle school and as we're doing with the communication to, again, the loudest work, either, I know it's dark early in the morning now, you know, as best we can off of the school hours, you know, or on the weekends, etc. And again, we have been talking about this and trying to respond to it. But that's probably my concern right now is that, you know, our orchestra, music, and gym classes that we don't experience the noises. And when we do get the noises, they're not for extended periods of time. It's brief, on the order of minutes, but it is loud. And it can be disruptive.
And it's more noticeable, obviously, if you're in a classroom or in an office space where they're working right above you. It might be, I'm going to assume, I'm not an expert by any stretch, it will be less noticeable in an area the size of the gym and or the auditorium. Simply because of the distance from the floor to the ceiling is significantly greater than in a classroom or in the office area.
Okay.
I know too, I mean, certainly in your defense, anybody that's ever remodeled your home,
Doing that now.
things are going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think the communication is key, being aware of the safety is key, because, you know, it's not, you know, as you would be if you were doing someone's home and impacting someone's family, but I think anybody that's remodeled knows things are going to happen, and you have to roll with them, so.
Mrs. Black, Mrs. Pavo, anything you'd like to ask or concerns you'd like to raise?
While inconvenience to the staff, to the kids, the teachers moving the classrooms is important, my concern and the people that I've talked to, their big concern is the safety issue. Do you feel that at no time our students were placed in an unsafe situation with the flooding or a leaky pipe or the noise that they had to endure during the process? Safety is our most important thing, definitely.
Yes, absolutely. We're very comfortable with the safety procedures that we've implemented. Safety is job one. In addition to this, we survey the areas ahead of time. We make sure that everything is properly secure, both above the school and below the school. And safety is utmost importance to the occupants of the building.
Thank you.
Mrs. Black?
Yes, thank you for coming. Thank you, Building Committee, for all your help. As you know, we have to answer to the community, and that's why we're asking you to come,
Yes.
because they're paying for it. But thank you, and I think all my questions have been answered. And as Mrs. Powell said, things happen, and it seems like you're communicating with everyone and trying to do the best you can. We have to get this done. I mean, I go to basketball games all the time, and they're wiping the floor as the games are going on. It's just not right. So this is why we're here. This is why the people voted for it. And thank you for trying to get it done as fast as you can. Thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So just before
Thank
we
you.
finish, I just wanted to ask, or give Mr. Ordell and Mrs. Zimick an opportunity to ask any questions or raise any concerns, either from the podium or from wherever you are as building committee members. Jim? Thank you for coming again.
Welcome. Good evening. I'd just like to say that this is, you have to keep in mind, this is once a generation type repair. It is very
hope so.
important that it moves along. There is significant previous damage from all the water that's come into the building, and the sooner that it gets done, the better it is for everybody. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Mr. Mendes, I didn't mean to leave you out. Any questions or concerns you wanted to raise?
No, I on a daily basis, I address the concerns that I have. I speak to Drew 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 times a day on all issues. And I always address the principals if any issues do come arise. So I really don't have a concern. I think they're doing an excellent job where they are. And contact the communication is very high with us, I believe. Where they're going to be working, so I give the principals that information immediately.
Mm-hmm.
My end, concern-wise, I think it was an isolated issue with the smell.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, anyone else? Mr. Hopwood?
I would just like to say in closing, on behalf of my entire team, I just want to reiterate how much we appreciate being your contractor, your general contractor here. We're striving to do the best job we can. I feel bad, too, about some of the minimal noise and disruption. We'll continue to strive to do better as we move forward, not only with the roofing operations, but also the work within the school. We have a long way to go with HVAC replacement. We look forward to giving you a new state-of-the-art facility, not only replacing the HVAC, but also replacing your lighting, your ceiling, and classroom areas, and so on. So we're very proud to be your contractor. We'll strive to do the best job we can. Thank you very much.
We may see you again.
Yes.
I'm sure we will.
All right.
Thank you. And I
Thank
want
you
to
all
wish
for
everybody
coming.
happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, you too. Thank you all for coming. And again, Mrs. Zimick, Mr. Odell,
Yes, thank you for
again
coming
for
out
coming
tonight.
and for all the work you've done on the building committee so far. And we'll continue to do work. Thank you. All right, item 9A.
I'll make a motion. Never mind.
We don't need a motion right at the moment. We'll get to 10A, yes.
That's where I was at 10.
So review and approval of Tiverton High School's core values, beliefs, and learning expectations. Mr. Eric? Mr.
Yes,
Ashley?
I'll speak first, then Chris can jump in. As you recall, in the late summer, Mr. Ashley came before the school committee requesting approval of the high school's new core values, belief, and learning expectations. These are a result of a recommendation from our NEASC accreditation visit back in, I believe, 2013, when we were last reaccredited. And Mr. Ashley, the committee gave him some recommendations, and I believe he's tried to address them in his memo. And you want to pick it up from there, Chris?
Thank you. Yes, so last spring, when the committee recommended that we go back and receive additional feedback on the draft statement, then we resubmitted the survey, received a little over 80 responses, and brought those responses back to the school advisory committee this fall, where we looked at then the core value statement and reviewed the feedback, and primarily it was around the acronym at the time was TIGERS. Didn't seem to quite flow, and so the committee came up with PRIDE, which is what you see before you now, the persevere, respect, etc. And from that, reviewed it with faculty in faculty meetings and students, and they seem to take to the PRIDE acronym fairly quickly, actually, and felt that overall the core values, beliefs, and learning expectations reflected what we want our students, future graduates, to know and be able to do.
I'm recommending the committee approve the proposal.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, yeah, and we just needed a motion. Yes, Mrs. Black?
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Ashley, and all the people that worked on this. You see who came tonight? Tiger's in front of there. He only comes out of retirement for championship games, but when he heard this, when I was reading my pack, he was very upset. And, you know, the acronym's good. PRIDE is always great for all the schools, Portsmouth Pride, Derby Pride, but I would just ask if you could just change it. It says Tiverton High School believes that all students to exhibit THS. If we just put Tiger Pride, and then you could still have the acronym, but leave Tiger in there, and you go to, everywhere you go, whether it's a band or a parade or a game, everywhere we go, people want to know who we are, so we tell them we are the Tigers, the Mighty Mighty Tigers. We hear that everywhere, and when you see the newspaper, the volleyball or whatever, it'll go, Tigers did this and Tigers did that. So, I mean, I know the acronym's easier with Pride, and what it states is very good and very deep, but if we could just sneak that little word Tiger in there, if everybody doesn't mind, because the people I talk to, it was very important to them. Thank you.
So after,
Just after the exhibit THS,
yeah,
just
the
put
word
Tiger Pride, and then it'll be the same acronym. We won't change that because that's a lot of work, trying to make those letters mean something. I know that. Done that a lot.
It's always a lot of work, like.
If that's okay with everybody.
Any objections, Mr. Ashley?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea, and the Tigers is not a little word, it's a very important word, I'd say, too.
It is, it is,
So
yeah.
I thank you for that.
Thank you for all
So
this hard work.
Diane, do you want to amend the motion? Was it your motion?
Yes.
I will amend the motion to accept the Tiverton High School core values and beliefs to be amended to include the word tiger. Where it's somewhere in the...
Right
body
here.
of the-
All students exhibit THS Tiger Pride.
It's on the second.
THS gets
Tiger
replaced
pride
with Tiger.
In the language, thank you.
Second that amendment.
Thank you, Ms. Monwood.
Anybody else? Okay, so we have an amended motion. We have to vote on the amendment first. All those in favor? Okay, and then on the original motion, unless any other discussion, all those in favor? Okay, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris and your staff.
Item 9B, update on the Charter Review Commission. Mrs. Black, dare you speak?
Yes, I've been attending all the meetings. They go on till 10 o'clock at least. And as we spoke before, there's about 80 of different ideas that they have. I submitted some of them to you. The ones that are on the table, I will pick up and give to you. But 80. So they're just going through them now, though, and what they do is they talk and vote provisionally to either accept it, reject it, or continue it till they get more input. So that's what I'll do. And as I said, if there's anything on the table that I can copy for you, I will bring it to you. But we said we'd wait till they whittled it down, because we're certainly not going to give all that to Mr. Robinson. But it will be very important, as Mrs. Farnworth said, because some of it is very important to how we try to operate the town. For example, the other night, they were talking about grants, and they want everything to come through the general fund and all those things. And they had the word in there that you couldn't use any labor. So I jumped right up and said, but we have in-kind contributions. We don't have money to give, so we give in-kind. We volunteer like we have for 14 years. Tiverton High School in here for Tiverton Prevention, sign the paper. That's why we've gotten those federal grants for those 5-year amazing amounts of money, because of our in-kind. So I said, if you put that word labor in there, as you did with the 1218, we're going to be in trouble again. So I'm glad I was there to catch that, and they did agree. So little things like that, every word matters, as we know. So we'll have to get together after we receive their final copies and go over it, as we did last time. And Mr. Robinson said not to accept it because of all the holes that were in it, and we didn't, remember, Deb? We didn't accept the FTR. Not that we didn't want that, but the way it was written, as we can see, when you end up in court because of something, there's a problem with the language, so. Diane?
I just, one other item of note is that they have set a deadline of December 31st to submit new proposals. So if anyone has any, time is running down.
It is, you're right. Thank you.
They're also going to take up I'm not exactly sure what it is. It's a discussion on Monday night. They had asked me to come, not representing the school committee, just as myself. At least that's how I took the invitation and how I intend to go there, to have some sort of discussion about contract negotiations. Not exactly sure what they're getting at. anyone is welcome. It's an open meeting.
Of course, it's an open meeting, anyone can go.
Yeah, so.
How can they how do you leave your hat at the door to discuss contract negotiations as a citizen?
How do I?
Well, I guess maybe just any citizen could come in and
Yeah,
say,
it's an
I
open
think we
meeting,
should
anyone
vote
can
on
go.
contracts.
I could go without an invitation.
I mean, I think that's at least the early direction is where it was going, is they feel every contract should be approved by the FTR.
Right, but I guess I'm poor at making my point. Excuse me. That's something the committee should take an official position on.
Agree.
Oh, at some point, I imagine we
And
may.
I would just be careful, because whatever is said will become gospel. Whether even though you're there and you'll say private here is private citizen Larkin, you got to be my experience has been you got to be very careful, because they'll take whatever you say. You could say it's sunny outside and turn it.
The school committee said.
The school committee said, just be leery. I don't mean to be a
I guess that's
Debbie
true every
Downer.
minute of the day.
No, but with if again, I don't live in town, but I would ask anybody who does live in town, read those proposals.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, there's 80 and they are slogging their way through them.
But you
I'm
got to
not sure.
slog through it, because this some interesting recommendations.
I'm not real clear on what obviously they're going to go through several more months of discussing these proposals and taking votes. Right now preliminarily, but then eventually there'll be a final vote, if you will. And then the question will be what next with all of those proposals that they determine that they want to back.
Well, they have to draft some sort of language
For each
that
one.
would be, whatever change to the charter they're trying to make, and then it gets voted upon.
Well,
Goes to the council.
Goes to the council, right.
I was actually on the last charter commission.
Oh,
It goes to the
so-
council, and then the council decides which ones they're putting forward and which ones they're not.
And that's where the committee would
For vote on the
take a
ball.
public position on those
Yeah.
that are
Definitely.
germane to us.
But they will need to have all of the writing done, cross-outs,
Yep.
additions, everything will be done, so you can see what the new charter is going to look like. The council will vote up or down, and then then they'll go on a November ballot, I'm assuming, unless they do it some other way, and then people.
Well,
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
they legally can do it another way, can they? Can they call a special election for the charter review?
No, I think the
No,
schedule
I
has
think
it
the
next
chart, yeah, I
November.
think it says November.
Yeah.
But-
Well, the problem being there, if they call a special election, that sort of depresses voter turnout, which is
Oh,
not
yeah.
a good thing.
I know, the only ones I've ever voted on were always November.
And the special election for the FTR, though, in the library, remember?
That's true.
That's true.
That was a special
We had a
election.
special
That was a
election for
special
the
election,
elementary
yeah.
schools.
Yeah.
Because
Yes,
they
we
didn't
did.
put our
Yeah.
bond language
We
in on
did.
time.
No, you're right, the
Well, yeah,
FDR was a
but
special election.
do they, I guess if they did, so the library was a bond, the charter, FTR was a,
Major
change in the
charter
charter.
change.
Yes.
so they were able to do that as a special election, but was that via the Charter Review Commission, or was that by some other mechanism?
I was also on that.
You were on that one, and
That was a financial town meeting changes
Yeah.
committee that was appointed by the council,
So-
so that was a board that was
Yeah,
appointed
I think the charter says that the Charter Review
may.
Commission proposals have to go on the November ballot.
Is that true? Okay.
I don't know.
I'd have to
That's
look.
my recollection. I don't have the charter in front of me. All right, that
Okay,
was
we can
Jerry.
look it up.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Entertain a motion
Sally.
to table item 10A.
It's 10A.
Table item 10A.
The
Second.
contract.
Oh,
All those in favor? Item 10B, 2018-2019 budget.
Yes, just to update the committee, I have met with all the principals and Mr. Carnevale and Mrs. Donnelly Roche have submitted their initial budget requests for 2018-2019. I have met with 3 of the principals. I've met with Mr. Carnevale and Mrs. Donnelly Roche already. I have my final 2 meetings scheduled Friday. I'm then, we're on target to have something for the committee on January 2nd.
Oh, good.
Mr. Fiore is coming in this Saturday. He's been doing some work behind the scenes already, but we're on target to get our initial budget proposal in for review on the 2nd.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the other, is there anything that I always ask the committee, is there anything specific that the committee would like to see in the budget?
Well, we'd have to discuss.
No, but I mean, sometimes there's, I would like a, December to remember or something, there's an item that a must have. Okay, we'll see when I roll it out. And we've tried to keep it as level funded as possible on our accounts, but the principals and Amy and Dave have made strong arguments for slight increases in certain accounts that you'll see, but nothing significant.
Okay. Item 10D, request to update the telephone system at the high school and central office.
Yes, if you've ever had to call in to my office or to the high school, it's not a pleasant experience. It's probably right below driving in the middle school parking lot before we had it
Yes,
paved as
true.
an enjoyable experience. It's not good.
I must be calling some really bad places because it hasn't been too bad for me.
Try guidance sometime.
Guidance has lost their phones periodically this past fall and into the early winter. The phone system is just it's dilapidated and outdated. I asked Mr. Carnevale when he first, back in October, when he became interim tech director, to research. We had conversations, some of the members who've been here say, well, didn't we talk about this before? We did, but we never got around to getting solid pricing on it. David has done that. You have it in front of you, and I'll let Dave just speak to his proposal because it's pretty straightforward. It's got a minimal impact on our operations, and we can get new phones. So, yeah. Yes, it's the same one in your packet. Dave, do you want to just summarize?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. This is the first time I get to speak to you all. So from the memo that I sent to Mr. Eric, by replacing the phone system with a new system by Cox, it actually allows us to, in the long run, save money. If I were to upgrade, or excuse me, if I were to fix the current system that we have now, it doesn't guarantee that it's going to stay fixed. The lines are very old, they'd have to be redone, and all the stuff is in-house. By going with the new system, this actually allows most of the actual hardware to be off-site, so we don't have to worry about maintenance on that. The contract that we would end up receiving from Cox Communications, we would be renting each phone line. We already pay Cox Communications for our phone system, so we're not adding a new vendor or anything like that. This actually gets our cost on the phone bill around the same approximate number that we were at originally with the phone system we currently have. The difference is for 3 years we are paying a fee for the installation instead of paying the money outright. We would be paying over a 3-year term of the contract for each line that's put in. I'm having the Cox Communications company come in and rewire or actually put in new wiring for each phone so that I know that the wire is brand new, it's installed by them, it's warranted by them. One major plus for this is that if there is a problem with the phone system, I don't have to call another vendor. I call Cox Communications, they come in, they fix it. It does not cost us anything extra. It is all part of the rental agreement and the maintenance agreement there. The numbers that you see in front of you in regards to the monthly cost that it would be is everything less federal taxes. We, of course, are tax exempt for the state, but there are those federal, like 911 fees and stuff like that that would show up in there. So that would be the only difference there. During the installation process, I know that there will be wiring done in the building, and the plan is to do this during February time off. during the professional development day when there is no students in the building. I don't really want their staff in the building when we have children.
Nope.
So it will be done during those 2 days and then after hours if need be. It shouldn't take them more than 3 days. The third day would actually be at central admin. So it avoids them having any contact or being around any students.
We don't want them there either during the day. Just saying.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve?
And I'm sorry.
So moved.
Make the motion.
Second.
Okay, any
And
discussion?
Yes.
just what Dave is, it's in the memo, is that if this goes well, this spring, we'll start looking at the middle school and come back with a similar proposal to redo their phones as well.
So I'm just, and am I looking at the right one? Where I have two costs, 8640 and 9840, or is that the wrong? Oh, am I not looking at the new one?
It says a total, the 8640 plus the 1200, I believe, gets you to 9840.
Yes.
In other words, the three years of the monthly
Oh, I got it.
payment, and then 1,200 upfront cost.
Gotcha.
Yes, the
Get you the
1200.
9840.
The 1,200 covers the cost for our current analog lines that we have to keep, which are our fax machines, the alarm system, and the elevator.
Okay.
Yeah, those we can't rely on them being
I just
digital.
wasn't following if it was two, but it's the total.
Yes.
It's 9840. Okay, thank you.
And this is going to replace every line in the building?
This replaces every office phone that's currently in the building now. It does not replace classroom phones, which classroom phones are only able to be accessed from the main office using the PA system.
Okay. And they were working
Those are working fine, yes.
anyway? Okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
An extension, please.
Okay. Item 10E, request by the Tiverton Prevention Coalition to have the school department serve as a fiscal agent for a proposed grant. Ms. Zellwell?
I think it's on? Yes, it's on. Yes, thank you. I put in this proposal, this request to be on the agenda to request your approval to serve as a fiscal agent for an additional grant opportunity. As stated in the request, this is an opportunity to seek additional federal funds because we are a drug-free community grant holder. So that narrows our pool of competitors at the federal level. This grant is formally called the Community-Based Coalition Enhancement Grant to Address Local Drug Crises. The short name is CARA Local Drug Grant. And the specific focus of this grant is on the age 12 to 18 population, the same as our drug-free community grant. And it's specifically oriented to reducing abuse of opioids and abuse of prescription medications among ages 12 to 18. We have been fortunate to now be entering year 6 or year 7 of our drug-free community grant, and we also have the STOP grant, which is the underage drinking grant I've come to reference in the past. That underage drinking grant was also an opportunity only open to drug-free community grants. So we do have a track record of receiving those enhancement grants based on our performance on the drug-free community grant. So I'm simply asking your permission to have the school department identified as the fiscal agent.
I just have a couple things. Oh, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Polish?
Just to clarify, so this is Tiverton, not the, because I know Newport County,
Right,
so this is
just Tiverton. Mhm.
And then the second thing is, because I've been asked this and I could not answer the question. So we're the fiscal agent, but the money actually goes to the town and the treasurer administers the grant, so,
No.
okay.
So we have two separate fiscal agents. For our drug-free community grant, and the STOP grant, which is the underage drinking, that is only with the school department.
Okay.
The county funds come through the town.
Ah, that's the difference, because
so-
someone and I said, I didn't know.
Yes,
Okay.
so it wasn't really on purpose to separate them. Or like, well, it was on purpose. It wasn't a grand plan, it sort of just happened, and it's so fortunate that they are kept separate because the school department, as a fiscal agent, handles funds that are only for Tiverton.
So your receipts and everything go through finance, our finance department? Okay.
Correct.
All right,
Because I approve them.
okay.
It's part of my new job description. But
Because
I certainly can say we paid
They
for
had
them.
saw you at a council meeting, and they said, well, I
wouldn't
thought
be able to say
Tiverton was
that
the
2 months
fiscal
ago.
agent. And I was like, oh,
3
good,
months
she's
ago.
got it on, so I can ask her.
Yeah, no,
Perfect, okay.
so when, a year ago, it will be a year in January, of course, we had to go like 4 months before that, but in last January, I did receive the grant for Newport County, and we are utilizing the town treasurer's
Perfect.
department for that.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Clears that up.
So that the application is due on, I think, the 29th of January, and it is a start date anticipated of June 15th of 2018. So it's a pretty rapid turnaround in terms of getting the funding out. It's $50,000 a year, each year for 3 years. And as I stated, it's specifically geared toward opiate use and a prescription drug. The state of Rhode Island has not collected data specific to communities around opiates. We know we have a crisis in our state, but we can't sort of bring it down to the community level. So that may put us at a disadvantage. I'll do the best that I can in terms of finding the data that I need. There's certainly plenty of national data. There's statewide data. There just isn't Tiverton data. So I've been in that situation before, and you just have to, use the best information, evidence that you have, and market that. So, I'm not going into this thinking like we certainly do not have a 12 to 18 opiate crisis in Tiverton. I couldn't make that up if I tried. But we have seen a softening of attitudes among our youth around prescription drugs. They feel like, certainly it's safer, quote unquote, because a doctor prescribes these things. So there is an attitude of sort of, well, maybe it's not as dangerous as some of the other street drugs. So we'll build that into the proposal, and that sort of assessment of their lack of concern for their safety when they're talking about a prescribed medication.
It's actually quite surprising that there haven't been statistics compiled by the state. Isn't it?
It's frustrating. It is surprising. It is surprising, especially in this day and age. And just a little window into the most pressing issue that I'm working on right now, both at the Tiverton level and also at the county level, is to get opiate and heroin-specific questions on the 2018 administration of the Rhode Island Student Survey, which the school department has approved back in the summer. It's been approved across the board, across the state. A few schools opted out of it. Jamestown, for example, opted not to administer it, but most, I would say 90% of the schools across the state are doing it. RIDE approved, BHDDH and Department of Health approved. Well, there is not a single question on there that asks specifically about heroin, nor does it ask about opiate use, even though they have sort of this category of other illegal drugs, and it lists out cocaine, methamphetamine, club drug types of things, but it doesn't even in that sort of slush question of multiple drugs, it doesn't list out heroin. It's a terrible oversight. What I've been told, I'm sort of leading the charge among my peers to get that changed, even though it would take some doing, and I have to give some credit to Senator Jim Seveny, who's really working on this. We're kind of partners in this to get those questions, because if we don't, BHDDH has already agreed to add them to the 2020 survey. 2 years from now is not the time to start collecting baseline data
There
on
could be
this.
some other,
We don't know what the nature of the problem is right now, or the magnitude, and we won't know if we're making any progress. And 2 years is a long time. So thank you for asking that question. It is a huge frustration.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Item 10F, request approval of grant from the Van Buren Charitable Foundation. Ms. Donnelly Roach.
Yes, thank you. So I'm pleased to formally announce that the district has been granted $67,464 from the Van Buren Foundation. That grant was approved for submission by this board in June and was developed in partnership with the Tiverton Prevention Coalition and Newport County Special Education Program. So related to an earlier item, this grant is focused on Tiverton High School and works to, will support us in working to address those Tiverton High School Tiger Pride core values by embedding social emotional and digital learning throughout all of our curriculum. So it is again focused on that support and making sure we have an integrated approach to addressing the standards for digital literacy as well as the standards for social emotional learning across each content area throughout our high school.
Can I have a motion to request or to approve the grant?
Accept the grant.
Accept the grant.
second.
All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Item 10G, approval of the 2018 school committee calendar.
Yes, it's that time of year to approve the annual calendar for the committee.
Motion to approve?
Tuesday still work for everybody?
You do for me. How about you?
No? But, okay. All those in favor?
And we'll plug along anyway.
Yep. Item 10H, request approval of microscope donation, Tiverton High School.
Yes.
Second?
Yes, the donation is from Mrs. Mary Ann Langley. She's donating 2 compound light microscopes, 2 photo microscopes with associated supplies to the science department in honor of her husband who passed away this past October. And their son, Philip, graduated from Tiverton High School 10 years ago. So,
it's very generous.
Thank you.
very much so. Yes,
Yeah, let's send
we
them.
always do when we get it.
Ken and Mary Ann, when Philip was in school, I knew them. Very, very involved, many different, he was in music, they were involved in many other different clubs, really, really supportive of the district, many at FTM. So, very, very lovely that they would think of the district.
Okay. Did we get a motion? Okay, all those in favor? All right. And now, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session under Rhode Island General Law 4246582, legal advice litigation contract for Director of Finance and Administration.
I can make that motion.
All those in favor?